Yo, what's going on? It's good to see y'all, man. I hope y'all feeling good. I hope everyone's okay. I hope you had a great week. And yeah, I'm excited, man. There's a lot that we can talk about in this episode, and by the title, I'm pretty sure you could see that. Today we're gonna just talk about how fear is killing our potential. Um, But like I said, man, I hope everyone had a great week. I hope that, even if you aren't having a great week, I pray. My prayer is that you find a way to um, just find the good in this week, even if you mostly just see bad, right? Because that's essentially what faith is. Faith is believing without seeing, and I'm praying that God strengthens you and allows you to um, you know, to see that all things still work. That's complicated things, that's bad things, that's distracting things, that's emotionally taxing things. That's everything. And I think that's one of the cool things about being a kingdom citizen and being a kingdom builder is God gives us dominion and authority and power over those things in our lives. And I really pray that um, you find that power this week. I pray you find that power this week. But we're gonna get straight into it. We'll get straight into it. Um, so last week, right? Last week is interesting. Um, this is the third episode that we have, and again, it's just me and you, right? I'm grateful for the time that we spend, and I'm even grateful for how God's going to change this podcast. I do believe soon and very soon, sooner than later, that this will be a community full of people just uplifting each other and helping each other through their day to day lives. And I'm excited about what God is doing. I'm excited. Um, but this week, y'all, you've seen by the title, right? We're going to talk about fear this week. And I have such a hate relationship with fear. And when I give you my testimony a little bit, you'll see why. But we'll also see how fear tends to show up in entrepreneurship and in our daily lives in ways that we don't even think, right, subconsciously. And so, I'm excited. And just to pivot off of, just to kick it off, um, I do want to say this, right? Fear is being afraid of the unknown, right? And the problem with fear is that with fear comes a lot of other different emotions. And I heard this quote from Iyanla Vincent, and God bless her. She's always dropping gems. But she says this. She said that there are only two emotions that actually matter, and that's fear and love. And by my God, that's the truth. If you never heard that before, or if you did, then you know ball, right? You know game. Because there's really only two emotions that matter, and that's fear and love, right? And it's that constant battle, right? You hear people talk about the enemy, and then you talk about God, right? That's everything that is happening physically is happening spiritually. And so if that's happening, y'all excuse Sasha. So, you a new guest today? Sasha in, y'all. You a guest today, mama? But no, like if you think about how everything that's happening physically is also happening spiritually, you have to understand that it also transpires into your business. It transpires into your everyday life, right? And we're going to talk about the agenda of fear, why it exists, and how to overcome it, right? And how to overcome it. Excuse me, but a long time ago, I don't know if you guys seen the video. If you want to go check it out, I did a video on fear probably like 2 or 3 years ago, and I was talking about how um, fear is the main fear is the main driver for anxiety, and anxiety is literally fear of the unknown, right? And we know that God is the author and the finisher of our faith. So we already know how it ends. Why is it so hard for us as people, right? When we're um going on into new endeavors, when we're creating businesses, when we're stepping out on faith, why is it so hard for us to fully grasp that we are the head and not the tail when we start this business? We are above and not beneath when we start this business. Why is it so hard, right? And from my perspective, why it's so hard to me is because number one, it's a trick of the enemy, right? We've been through a lot of trauma. We've been through a lot of trials, tribulations that attribute to feelings that we have. Okay. And one thing I do want to make note too, there's a scripture, right, where God says, I wish above all things that you prosper, even as your soul prosper. I want to talk about that a little bit because you cannot talk about fear and not talk about the soul, right? And I promise you, I'm going somewhere. I know you're probably like, I thought it was a business podcast. It is. It's a business podcast, but I want you to understand that what Dope Brand is doing is we're trying to help people and empower them to understand that faith is not separate from business. It's the same thing. It all coincides with each other. But even as your soul prospers, and I want to talk about the soul for a little bit because a lot of times it's important for us to. You hear people talk about deliverance and everything. A lot of people think deliverance is just, spitting up, things like that. If you grew up in a heavy apostolic ministry and seeing it, I grew up like that. So I understand when I've seen deliverance take place from like, spirits and things like that. But there are things, y'all, that we need deliverance from in our minds. The soul is your mind. The soul is everything that you have been through. The soul remembers everything that you've encountered in this life. And remember, there is a battle not for the spirit. There's a battle for the soul, right? And so the soul remembers everything. And so when you go through situations that are really, really tough, situations that are emotionally taxing, what I mean by that have just drained the life out of you, it wears on your soul, bro. It wears on your soul. Even so much to the point that if you don't check yourself, right? If you don't check yourself, when you go out to try again, it'll be hard for you to do that. Right? It'll be hard for you to try again. It'll be hard for you to believe again or have faith in your ability as a person. Which is why anytime the enemy comes, he comes to kill, steal, and destroy. He's not playing no games, right? And so it's important to grasp this in your entrepreneurial journey, because things are always going to happen. That's number one. I want you to understand that things are always going to happen, but it's also important to remember who's the finisher of your faith. If he did it for Joshua, he can do it for you. Okay. If he did it for Adam, if he did it for the children of Israel, he could do it for you. If he did it for Joseph, he could do it for you. And that's the main thing. You gotta, I know it sounds weird, but you gotta stay connected to the source. You gotta stay connected to your source, right? And that's God himself. You gotta stay connected to our creator. Especially on this walk as an entrepreneur. As an entrepreneur, you have to stay connected, because there's going to be constant reminders everywhere about what you're not doing, what you're not good at, right? And the funny thing about it is people will be so quick to bring you down and to tell you what it is that you can't do, what you're not capable of, that sometimes we as people, we start to believe them. We start to believe them. And which is why the word also talks about our eyes, and we got to cover our eyes. We got to protect our eyes and our ear gates, because those are windows to the soul. Those are windows to your thinking, your mindset. So you have to protect that at all costs, especially as an entrepreneur. You can't let what other people think or how they feel about your business, or what you do. You can't let what they think about that transpire into who you are and how you show up as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, right? You can't. And like I said, fear opens up the door for a lot of things. And so at every avenue in your business, right? Whether that's you trying to get a contract, you always got to check fear, right? Always got to check it, because it's coming to kill your dream, bro. It's coming to destroy your dream. You got to check it. And like I said, it also brings other things with them too. The main thing fear brings is anxiety. Anxiety is just fear of the unknown. Anxiety is just when you have these overload of multitude of thoughts in your mind that are really negative, and they're not substantial to what it is that what you're trying to do, right? And it's as an entrepreneur, it can be a lot, but this is a good skill to develop. What I want you to try to do is to try to learn to just identify when fear happens, number one, and then also figure out the root cause of it as well. Like I told you guys a lot in the last broadcast, I talked to you guys just about my experience with money and everything. Like I was talking to a good friend of mine, and I was telling her, like, I had a really bad relationship with money. I had a lot of financial trauma, like, growing up and going without, it creates a sense of insecurity, right? And so I've recently just got to the point where I'm secure within my finances, in the sense of I'm okay with seeing money dwindle the way that it does. You know what I'm saying? Whereas before, like, if I would see my account get to a certain number, I'm like, all right now, you know what I'm saying? I don't like this, right? Because I had a fear of running out and having nothing, because I know what it feels like to have nothing. And that's why I'm saying it's important to expose your fears so you can figure out where they're coming from. And so, but when I think about that situation, even still, right? A lot of times with fear too, there's a lack of understanding, right? Because if you don't understand how wealth works or what it is, you can't have a relationship with something that you don't know anything about. So when we even talk about business on this podcast, when we talk about it, you can't separate faith and business. If you believe that you can, okay, this isn't the podcast for you. This isn't the business for you. We live in a world where there's always going to be issues arising, right? It is very important to, when those issues arise, to try to shake you off your foundation, that you learn to really grab hold of what it is that God called you to be and who he ordained you as. Because this world is filled with people and things that are going to try to convince you otherwise. Going to convince you otherwise. And we talked about that in the first episode, how important it is to understand yourself and how important self-discovery is, because if you know yourself, you'll be able to make decisions that not only benefit you, but benefit those around you, right? And so it's just one of those things, especially fear, learning your fears, that kind of just coincides with it as well. But back to what I said about fear bringing other things with it, right? One of the main things it brings is anxiety. We talked about this fear of the unknown. In the old video, I told you about how I went down the zip line in Costa Rica, and by the end of that experience, it was such an exhilarating experience that I learned a life lesson that I will always keep with me for the rest of my life, right? And I also learned at that moment that we are only afraid of the chances that we do not take. We're going to always be afraid of the chances That there's always going to be like a thought in the background of, in the back of our mind, our subconscious mind, there'll always be a thought of what would have happened if I actually would have did that, if I actually would have took a chance. There's nothing good that comes from allowing fear to rule your life. Nothing good comes from it. It's going to drive away opportunities. It's going to drive away dreams. Right? Nothing good comes from it. Which is why it's important for us to expose and figure out what is going on. Like, what is this? Right? Why can't I believe in myself at 100%? Why can't I? Why can't I believe in me? What is the problem? Why don't I understand that I am more than a conqueror, bro? That I can do anything that I want to do. Why is that? You want to know why that is? Because we've listened to what people said about us for so long that we forgot what our own voices sound like. We forgot. Some of us don't even know, because all we can hear is what our parents were telling us since we've been born and born on this earth. Some of us don't even know, bro. And so it's hard to see ourselves in a successful position. It's hard for us to see ourselves doing things that other people aren't doing. Right? But I do believe that if you are part of this community, that you are a part of the few who are chosen out to go against the grain, to go against everything that you see. Like, that's what y'all doing, but nah, I see something better for myself over here. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's not for me. That 9 to 5 is cool for y'all, but honestly, I see me building cities. You know, that salary cap is good for y'all, but I serve a God who is limitless. I don't believe in having a salary cap of $100,000, $200,000, right? I had told my sister, I said, I never want to stop working. And a lot of people were like, no, don't say that. Like, you want. I don't think people understood what I meant by that, right? I don't ever want to have to stop working, right? Because I don't view what I do, especially with Dope Brand and with like my family businesses, I don't view that as work. I view that as serving people, right? So when you are living purposefully and you're living out your purpose and you're serving people, it don't feel like work, bro. It don't feel like work. I don't ever want to get to a point where I stop serving people, because that's the reason why I was created. You shouldn't ever get to a point where you want to stop serving people. Whether or not you know, if you have a W-2 right now in this moment, you are serving people, regardless of what it is. I don't care if you're a bus driver. I don't care if you're a lawyer. I don't care what you do for a living. If you have a job, you are serving people, right? But the beauty of business, the beauty of entrepreneurship is creating opportunities that not only serve other people, but it also serves your purpose. It also serves your purpose. And you get to be a creative, what it is that God created us to be in the first place. If he is creator and he made us in his image, why would he not expect us to create? Really think about that. Why would he not expect us to create? It's your job to go out there and create opportunities for other people. Business, job opportunities for other people. It is your job to see where a problem is and to be able to solve it. That's what you were created to do. In business, you're nothing but a problem solver. We talked about this. You're nothing but a problem solver. If you're not solving any problems, you're existing. You're just existing. You're not living. And when you go to work, you don't feel like you're solving problems. You don't feel like you're making somebody's day better. You're existing. You're not living. And you're definitely not living purposefully. You're not. Bro, I've been in the workforce since I was 18 years old. I'm only 31 now, right? There's a lot of people who are way older than me, but every single job I had, I did it to the best of my ability. I've I've done any job you think of. I've been a factory worker, warehouse worker. I've did multiple types of been with multiple types of companies. I've been in cold units. I have a lot of certifications. There's a lot of people who brag on having certifications and things like that. It takes you 2 weeks to get a certification, and you do that same thing for 25 years. And you bragging about that? I got all my. Nobody cares about that. And this is not. I'm not sliding anyone in any way, shape, or form. I'm just trying to get you to think bigger. Think more of yourself. Really start try to think outside the box. Try to think outside the box. It takes you 2 weeks to get a certification to do one job that you'll be doing for the next 25 years. And you're proud of that. And I won't say there's nothing wrong with that. But what's wrong is when we can't see anything better for ourselves. That's the thing that I'm seeing right now in this day and time, and it's sad with a lot of people. A lot of people cannot see better for themselves. And it's like they're not even trying to. You feel what I'm saying? And it's like they're not even trying to. Looks like I'm going to have to get off a little early, y'all. But I'll just close with this, man. It's one of those things, bro. You try not to be so fearful of things that you cannot control, right? There's a possibility bad things will happen to you. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you. But take refuge, right? But just take comfort in knowing that you're still in God's safety, even if something happens. I'd rather fight this world with him than fight it alone. Don't be fearful of things that's happening or that could happen when you're trying to venture out and do something new that no one has ever done before. And it's going to be uncomfortable at first. So get comfortable with being uncomfortable. All right? I'm going to go ahead and get off because there's only a couple of seconds left, man. I don't want to cut off when I'm talking to you. I have so much more to say. I'll probably do a part 2, maybe tomorrow. I got to let this thing charge and everything. Bro, I love y'all, man. Like, be encouraged. Understand that you are meant for greater. And you will see greater once you believe that there's greater. I love y'all. Sasha love y'all in the back. Sasha, you want to say something to the people? All right. Dreams, opportunities, plans, and executions. That's all you need to be successful, man. We believe that's the blueprint for success. I love y'all, and I'll be back probably tomorrow and the next couple days. All right, go on.